Hello viewers and listeners, today we are talking about reproduction in space with Dr. Egbert Edelbroek. Egbert is a founder and CEO of SpaceBorn United Company. He is researching the conditions for human reproduction in space, developing step-by-step missions program and biomedical equipment for each mission. He is making efforts towards human settlements in space sustainable. Ebert is pushing mankind beyond the next frontier because we are explorers and because humanity needs backup plans. Also, he is connecting and combining ethical, medical, technical and legal perspectives, combining his enthusiasm for space exploration, sustainability and IVF opportunities. Egbert's quotes are, if humanity wants to be a multiplanetary species, we also need to learn how to reproduce in space. And it's a small step for a baby, but a giant baby step for mankind. You'll be able to find the link on Egbert's company below the video. And now my conversation with Egbert. Hello, Egbert. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Alexander. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Egbert, what devices are you and your company developing for reproduction in space? And Egbert, are you planning to manufacture special exoskeletons for pregnant women and newborns?
Interesting questions. Let me start with the first part. We are currently focusing on the first stages of reproduction, so conception and early embryo development. And for this, we are re-engineering existing IVF technology. So to create a life support system that allows for embryo development in space. And we take the existing embryo incubator and we add functionalities to enable the conception. And we also add, for example, artificial gravity and cryogenic freezing. And regarding the second part, the exoskeletons, we're not developing anything like this yet, but we are looking at special spacesuits to deal with gravity issues, but nothing more exotic than that.
Mm-hmm. Egbert, cosmic radiation will be leading to damages of neurons and as a consequences to birth of feeble-minded children.
Yeah, I understand the question. It's especially the cosmic radiation is an obvious concern. So at all times we want to stay well under the international norms for this, for maximum exposure levels. And for developing embryos, you understand these norms are much stricter than for adults. So we have been able to select an altitude for our biosatellite and an inclination for the orbit in which the embryos can stay well below this level. And in that regard, another crucial aspect is the mission duration. So this mission only takes 5 to 6 days. So in that way we can address this challenge.
Great. It's known that zero gravity has a bad effect on human organism, muscles, bones, and vestibular organ. The vestibular organ in conditions of the planet Earth is necessary for spatial navigation. In zero gravity, it isn't developing. Will people who born outside the planet Earth lose this ability?
They will not lose it. And if human babies would survive actually pregnancy in microgravity, which is not sure, they would probably have several mental and physical health issues. But fortunately, nobody is really considering this as an option. So we aren't, of course. Safe pregnancy in space will always require a significant level of gravity. And of course, a massive radiation protection, but we're talking about the gravity. And when humanity eventually will be ready for something like full pregnancy in space, it will certainly start with an Earth-like gravity level. For example, the level on Mars, approximately 39%, will not be enough. So they must be addressing this problem also in terms of artificial gravity, for example, through rotating bedrooms to compensate for this.
Egbert, spacecraft in the near Earth orbit will be in the free fall without landing. That is, conceiving and childbirth will take place in free fall. Will it be affecting human embryos?
Well, we have two missions, and one of them will indeed be in microgravity, the childbirth mission. But the embryo development mission will not be in microgravity, but we use an unmanned biosatellite with our space embryo incubator as the key payload. And this provides Earth-like artificial gravity, because that is required for healthy embryo development. But as I said, the other mission, the childbirth mission, this will be in microgravity. But it will only take 24 to 36 hours. So microgravity for such a short time will not cause any health problems. We have to take it step by step. And first, we only focus on childbirth and not on pregnancy. The technology is not ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm. Egbert, what measures will be provided if a woman will start to give birth immediately after launching of the spacecraft before docking with orbital station?
Yes, that's definitely something we need to avoid, and we are working on this, and we have identified already 3 key ways to address this, and we minimize the chance that this can happen. To start with working only with pregnant women that has delivered already twice before. And you need to know that women tend to have rather stable pregnancy periods. So if the first time they gave labor, they were 1 week late over time, then they will be likely to be 1 week late again the second and the third time. So that's one way of dealing with it, because we start the mission eventually with participants that are 8.5 months pregnant. So in that stage of pregnancy, the fetus is fully grown and fully healthy, and the chance of early contractions are minimum. But still, we have 2 other ways to address this. And in the very unlikely event that even then still the mother will start to have contractions, we can suppress them with for example, with natural adrenaline.
Egbert, if husband of the woman who will give birth will be an astronaut, do you admit the possibility of his participation in childbirth?
Well, that doesn't seem very likely, but if he happens to be an astronaut and he would not cause any safety concerns, we could allow it. And we know, of course, that women usually really appreciate the presence and the comforting of their husband during such an important life event. But it's actually more of a budgetary challenge. Taking people to space, you understand, is very expensive, and I'm not sure who's willing to pay this extra price tag for the husband. But we are exploring ways to, with for example, virtual reality, to see if we can enable something like an immersive experience to bring them together, not physically, but through virtual reality.
Egbert, let's talk about a little bit deep space. How do you see mechanics of childbirth in space? Because the muscles of the woman that responsible for this process will become significantly weak. And Egbert, woman will give birth naturally, or she will have a cesarean section, C-section?
Yes, I understand. Good questions. Well, about the weakening of the muscles, that would certainly happen if there would be pregnancy in space for a long time. But as I explained, this mission will only take about 24 hours. So in that short time, the muscles will not get weaker. And regarding the second part of the question, we want to enable a natural childbirth. Also because it minimizes the chances of any complications. But eventually, also the C-sections, they should become options for childbirth in space. But we want to start, of course, on the safe side. And we are looking at the protocols for C-section in microgravity. But unfortunately, I cannot reveal so much more about that yet, because actually that might happen a lot sooner than expected.
Great. Egbert, people who will born from incubators, they will look like externally and internally, psychologically, like we human beings on the planet Earth, or they will change drastically?
They will not change drastically. I don't think they will change at all. And our embryo incubators, they will provide life support for only the first 5 days. And I think you are also referring to the artificial wombs that people are already talking about.
Yeah.
And that may one day also enable a complete artificial pregnancy. And actually the first versions, they are being developed currently in the Netherlands, where I am from also. And I think you and many of your viewers must have seen the images of this baby sheep, this lamb in this plastic bag, which was a first artificial womb with all the fluids. And that version is now being converted into a human version, but not to be applied in space, but for premature babies to extend the time in the womb, because the lungs need the fluids to develop. But I think the version that will enable a full pregnancy, that will be developed in about 10 to 15 years, and a few years later also a version that could work in space. But that's still a few decades away. But even those artificial wombs, they will mimic the natural wombs in such a way that babies will be exactly the same as the babies that we're used to right now.
Egbert, did you already identify genes responsible for radiation resistance, loss of muscle mass, bone density, and other diseases that develop in the conditions of zero gravity? And how far you are from the time when you'll be able successfully edit these genes?
Well, because the health issues that you mentioned, they have such a big impact on everything we are doing and planning in space. Really thousands of scientists all over the globe, they are working on these issues and solving them, or at least limiting the effects. And gene editing is becoming a part of this. But first, we have to move forward globally with the ethical discussions and the dialogues to reach a consensus of how and when we can apply this to humans. And we are closely monitoring this, because we can imagine a lot of benefits for space exploration and also for artificial reproductive technology. So we are not planning to do it yet.
Okay. Egbert, CRISPR-Cas9 genetic scissors. Do you use CRISPR technology for reproduction in space and to prepare human embryos for life in space?
We can't yet because the technology is not available and it's not legal yet. And we are monitoring it. And personally, I expect it would take another 25 to 35 years before countries will start to apply this technology to humans. I think everybody can remember the Chinese scientist who secretly applied it to twin babies, but he was punished for logical reasons. So it's a few decades away.
Egbert, I know that you are playing crucial role in developing space state in collaboration with your like-minded persons. Please tell me about the Asgardia space state and nation.
Okay. Yes, Asgardia is known as the first space nation, and they have pretty much everything in place to be a complete nation. They have a constitution, the leadership structure with the head of nation and the ministers, a legal council. They have an active and democratically chosen parliament. They have their own currency, the solar, and they have a small satellite in orbit, which legally counts as a territory, but the residents, they are not on or in the satellite, but they live on Earth. And actually they're aiming for international recognition by the United Nations. And what really interested us at SpaceBorn United was the key scientific goal and vision of Asgardia, and it happens to be to enable childbirth in space. So that pretty much overlaps with our key vision and goals. And that made us really interested. And after I was allowed to present during their Science and Investment Congress in Germany, I was asked by them to join the elections for Parliament. So I thought about it and I did. And I was also elected. So now I am one of their parliamentarians, and I'm active in their science committee. And Asgardia has decided to support our research projects.
My congratulations. Egbert, but what's wrong with existing states? Why is it important to create this state?
Yes, I think, well, as humanity is keep moving forward to create these human settlements on the moon and on Mars, we need to learn how organizations and people will be able to interact in a productive way. And this is an opportunity to design frameworks and rules for this, so we can practice this safely on Earth, and instead of when the problems might arise when we are there. So we can learn how this functions and optimize it here. And I think this is also a unique opportunity to, well, to start from scratch with designing new rules and integrate many lessons that we have learned on Earth so far. For example, a lot of bad habits like eating meat, smoking, and of course pollution, a lot of things around this. We will not allow this in the rules on those settlements.
Egbert, how somebody can support SpaceBorn United company?
Yes, well, we can use people with the expertise in the things that we are dealing with. For example, the biomedical challenges, space technological, but also, of course, ethical and legal matters that we deal with. If people have expertise in this area, and this can be valuable for us, and if they're willing to contribute, they should feel free to contact us or me personally. And we're also still looking for additional funding, so also investors are invited to reach out, and we can explore interesting opportunities.
Egbert, what's your message to people?
My message would be to follow your dreams and not your fears, and expand your comfort zone, and help expanding the human comfort zone in space.
Egbert, thank you so much for what you do. Your work extremely important for us, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, Alexander, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. I hope to be back soon.